Totally.
Well, welcome, Mike. It's so nice meeting you.
It's a
And
pleasure.
I would like to start from the beginning. Who are you? Why did when did you start to love horror, sci-fi, or this kind of genre?
Sure.
Since I was when you were little.
Yeah, I mean, I love film in general, and film, I've always been kind of driven by, the biggest films. I mean, my first kind of love for film came from Star Wars. It's big and flashy and splashy on the screen, and it really just shows you a lot. And then from there, I really started to get into foreign film and films that came from other places because I grew up in inner city Philadelphia, and there wasn't a lot of difference in from day to day. We looked at the same things in the inner city. We didn't even have yards. We all of our houses look the same. Everything looks the same. So foreign film, was also a way to look into other people's culture, which is something that really was interesting to me. But my first experience with horror was Jaws, and Jaws was really, I'm still to this day, I won't go in the ocean past my knees because, I'm terrified of sharks. And that was the real, I guess at the time I didn't think of it as a horror film watching it, but, it is. And it's one of the most lasting horror films and it left the deepest impression on me of any film. And I was just driven by that, and looking at that. And then, from there, kind of merging the worlds of foreign film and horror film, I started to explore things like Argento, and some Japanese horror and things like that were just wild, starting to get into kind of like the Korean, Chan Park stuff and things of that nature, really seeing kind of just how crazy different countries were getting into horror films was really always very fascinating for me. And then going into the business was for me, it was not really something I was anticipating. I was going to be a lawyer. I went to the Wharton School of Business, at the University of Pennsylvania, very prestigious school especially for an inner city kid. And I thought I was going to get into law, and took about one semester, and I realized that was not what I wanted to do. So I figured out how to connect to my passion, and that's what I did. I started taking film courses while I was in business, undergraduate business school, and was fortunate enough to find a way to connect the two. And it was really just kind of by chance. To be honest with you, most of us don't think about the business side of film when we're watching them. And I was fortunate enough to have a professor who connected the dots of, hey, this is the business portion of the film, and of the film industry. We all know what it's like to watch a movie, but what does it take to make a movie, to find distribution for a movie, and to take that film out to an audience. So I had a class, it was called The Business of Film at the University of Pennsylvania, and that was what kind of switched the light on for me. And I decided to commit myself to figuring out how to do it, and how to get out there in a good way. So that's kind of like my origin. And then after college, I just committed to finding a good indie company to work with, where I could be on the ground floor. And then I started Dark Star in 2017. So it's been just kind of a path of me kind of stumbling into the business, finding a good company to work with to start and kind of learn the ropes, a company where I could have a big sphere of influence, which I did. And then taking that and pivoting it into my own business.
I have to admit, your catalog is really impressive, and there's a lot of friends there. Maxi Contenti, it's a friend of mine.
Maxi.
Maxi, yeah, it's a very good film, actually. I mean, it's an amazing film.
There you go. My Argento days,
Yeah.
came to light with Maxi's film.
Do you know the story of how they made the film in 20 days in a cinema that now is closed? So it was the last time this iconic, I would say, cinema, old cinema from Montevideo. And the guy who plays the killer, you know who he is,
Oh, of course.
Ricardo.
Our Blu-ray has his film on it,
Oh,
actually.
really?
Our Blu-ray release, yeah, which of course is the film within the film.
Yeah, yeah,
And we love that kind of thing. The more meta we can get,
yeah.
the better.
I was going to ask you because does the American audience respond well to, let's say, foreign films? I was going to say Latin American films because I know a lot of friends of mine. But because people here says, "Oh, Americans they don't read subtitles," so there's always this kind of urban legend. But I think that's
Sure.
changing. I mean, I have a lot of American friends that they don't give a shit.
Absolutely. I think, it's there's always different audience, subsets that we have, and kind of how they come, how we approach these audiences. Does the audience that watches a Marvel movie want to read subtitles? For the most part, probably not. But what we find is that, in the horror genre specifically, there's so many, the audience is more adventurous, and that goes from, watching films from other places with subtitles, but also just like not having to have the largest budget, or even having to have, cast that they recognize. When you watch a comedy, it's much more difficult to watch an indie comedy, than it is to watch an indie horror film, and the audiences are very different. So, I would say, well, first off, half of our country speaks Spanish, so Spanish is always palatable. But we do lots of different languages. We do a lot of French horror. We've done some. We just released a Japanese, serial killer film, at the end of last year. So just to back to that point, it's like, the horror audience will read subtitles because they want to find new things. And the fact of the matter is most of the bigger studios, they don't really cater to the horror audience. I mean, I think they will start to, now that you see these trends in the box office. But so what happens is, if the studios aren't putting out bigger horror movies, and the indie guys are doing the more interesting stuff, there needs to be more content for these audiences. So they are open to exploring subtitles, in my experience. And we, people ask, why don't you dub the movies? And it's because dubs are unwatchable. It's against our ethos as a
Yeah.
company. We totally won't do that unless we absolutely have to. And there's never been a situation where we have to. So we want it to be in its truest form, if possible.
Yeah, well, in our case, we are get used to read subtitles, but it's something interesting I found in the horror culture, horror fans. They're one very loyal fandom. Actually, this was said by Robert Englund when he was here in Argentina. I had the chance to meet him, and he said, I mean, I talked with Eileen Dees, the actress from The Exorcist, and
Oh, of course.
that plays Pazuzu. She told me that she has been living for 40 years from one role. I mean, he gets a lot of role. People call. I mean, and that something is shared among all people around the world. I speak with 4 languages, and I'm speaking all day with people in the States, in Europe, in Asia, in Russia, and I found a connection with any horror fan from any country, and that's amazing. I talked yesterday with the director of CC, Kane Scenes.
Yep.
Which is amazing. We were like 2 hours talking about how when we were little. I mean, because these kind of films back then they were very difficult to find. I don't know in your case, but I not even in the video stores. We have to go to a special video stores, and it was like going to like the black market of movies. And for me, that was something very unique. I don't know if you had the same experience.
Sure. Yep. We had a few of those. I mean, I grew up on the East Coast, like I said. So, you go to New York and you can go to Kim's Videos. That was something where you could find all the best bootlegs and the craziest stuff. But I mean, even in Philly, we had a TLA Video, which was similar. They had kind of like they would separate it by director or country, and you can explore those different areas. But I think speaking to kind of the fandom of the genre community, I mean, it's something we love and embrace. I mean, there's very few, genres of film that will have their own cons. Horror cons are something that happens daily, and you bring people like Kane Hodder and, these guys who are, they're recognized from, a role or a couple roles, in Kane's case, you have two, iconic ones, but there are, that just these people will come back and back, to see them and engage with not only I think the members that you see on screen, but just the friends that they gravitate towards. We're big proponents of the genre film festival. So we support Fantastic Fest and Fantasia. And right now Panic Fest is about to happen. Our friends over there in Kansas City, and they're and we sponsor as much as we can. We just sponsored Overlook, down in New Orleans, which was a fun one. And it's the reason that we want to have a presence there is because of that community, right? We want everyone to know that we are part of that community. We support, the filmmakers, the fans, everything that we can, and those festivals, So it's, the community is really important, and I think that it's an accepting community. It's it's a diverse community, and it's a fun one. So, I'm forever grateful to be part of it.
Actually, I'm a juror in one of the festivals of the States, the Chicago Horror Fest, because I know that the organizer. Yeah, and he's a juror in our festival. So now it's great. Here we have the Buenos Aires Rojo Sangre in the Fantaspoa. So yeah, I mean, festivals are so great, but the thing about festivals, and that's why when they decide to do a trend, we decide to do it at the same time in different countries. And this is a third edition. We're going to do it in Buenos Aires, Mexico, Bogota, Madrid, Milan, and Paris. Because
wow,
yeah, we're going to do little events, but when Buenos Aires is going to be bigger because it's the third time, and I invite a lot of directors. But that's, I mean, what I really find is true passion in all this, and something I have noticed. This more like not like a fan, but a proactive fan of, or I know a publicist, if you call it that way, is that directors they don't realize how strong this community is. Because here in Argentina, right, for example, they complain, no, we have no money. Or well, they were ripped off by a lot of sales company. But then they go abroad, like, for example, Terrified. Let's take Terrified by Demian Rugna. Here nobody watched the film because there were no distribution. The distribution company here are all arranged with the the local lobby or whatever that is really. But the film had a huge success in Korea, in the States. And when he went there, he was signing autograph, and he started feeling bad because no, guys, I'm not famous. Come on. But there he was, and I told him that, I remember. So I'm trying. So and I discovered that for a filmmaker, the best way to because make I don't know if you agree with this, but to make a film and make money of it, it's for a filmmaker, it doesn't make any sense. It makes sense to make films and for an audience to build a fandom, and there is what you generate the income, because you cannot be like Disney that they can produce like 1,000 movies per day. That would be a business. But if you generate in the long term fandom, people that are willing even to produce your film. I have friends that have fans that have put money to finance the films. That's the way. I don't know if you, and that's why marketing in the marketing in the sector is very important. I don't know if you agree.
No, I agree to an extent. I think that, building a fan base is absolutely necessary, and something that especially within the genre, horror film community, I mean, is something that goes a long way. I mean, because it just opens so many different doors for you, in terms of analytics. Unfortunately now, our business is completely driven by analytics. I've been in distribution for almost 16 years now, and when I first got into it, it was you were pitching people on a film, on a concept, on something that is cool that can catch an audience. Now the buyers are less interested in what the content is and what boxes the content checks for their analytics. So when you can build that audience, you can basically prove your analytics to start, and that's extremely valuable, extremely valuable for your next project and what you're doing going forward. But in that same, kind of token, the way the business is shifting now from a revenue perspective, is building so that, long tail revenue streams are much, much more relevant than they ever have been. And what I mean by that is, it's not all about the first 3 months of your release anymore. It's about, how sustainable is your film, going forward. So when you build that audience, and maybe when your next film comes out, people go back to the first one, to revisit that, because now there's so many platforms and the ad-based VOD platforms that are very dominant here in the US and, are coming to the rest of the world slowly but surely. They're giving, these large libraries, and they're giving, older films a chance to shine again, and to be very palatable because it's free. All you have to do is watch some ads with it. So I think, long tail life cycles of films, is something that, now more than ever is reprising. I mean, we're looking at picking up, films that came out years ago because we want to, give them a life, not only on a cool Blu-ray, remastered Blu-ray release, which is traditional, but putting them on these platforms digital platforms where people can discover them, because, Netflix isn't going to have everything. Hulu's not going to have everything. These big streamers, they're not interested in, the indie stuff or even older stuff. But these new platforms are, and it's the future. And I think, the long tail, while you might not make your money back on that first movie right away, eventually it will be rediscovered, especially if you have a fan base and especially if you're continuing to work within that parameter. People will go back and discover things. So what you're saying is correct. It is about building an audience and building, that out. But I also think, monetization is changing on films, and there is ways now to really, make these indie projects more sustainable.
Yeah. No, that's too bad. For example, for a filmmaker, I mean, it's essentially, I start working with a small production company, people that I love. As a fan, I say, guys, I'm going to help you because I love your work. So I start working with them. And the idea is I use the same strategy that they use with the personal brand, like this is the director, this is the guy that made this and this film. And people say, whoa, wow. So I start working on that to promote different films around the world. The crazy thing is I have been doing that for 3 years, and I'm in Argentina, and I've been connecting people from that they live in the same area in New York, something that people don't talk to each other. It's crazy. No, really.
It is very crazy.
I connect an investor that they were just in the same city, and now they are shooting the film. Say, come on, guys, you need to go out more. I mean, I found one of the investors near my here in Argentina, a tourist that was traveling. So I talked to him. There, I introduced people. But again, well, the problem with the people that work in this business, they are shy in some cases, but in some cases, sure. They don't know how to connect, right? And for me, it's easy because I'm a very social, talkative person.
Well, I think that's another reason why film festivals are very important.
Yes.
I always find, we obviously are present at not only film festivals but the markets. Very important for us, finding new content, discovering, new filmmakers, etc. But it's funny. I live here in LA. Most of the time I'm exactly where you see me. In my desk. With my head down when I'm here in LA getting work done. And a lot of people, even that live here in LA, I'll see next at Cannes. And it's interesting. Sure, we go out and grab a drink here, but in Cannes we'll have more fruitful conversations because we're just fully entrenched in what's happening there, right? For a week or however long you're there. I'll be there 6 days, right? And it will be 6 days of nothing but film, and talking about film from when I wake up until when I go to bed, rinse and repeat every day. So I think, and I think film, no matter what degree of it is, if you're at Fantastic Fest and it's just the genre community, or whether you're at Cannes and it's, the whole film world, literally, you have to entrench yourself, and fully immerse yourself into what's happening. And film festivals become so important to that. I mean, I've gotten so many deals done over just meeting someone at a cocktail, at a film festival, and literally that being the bridge into a new relationship. I mean, and not that that doesn't happen in LA. Actually, the third film we ever released, a film called The Queen of Hollywood Boulevard, I met Orson Oblowitz, the director, at a rooftop cocktail party in LA. It was meant to be a mixer, but it was, it was wonderful. We went away. I was there with another director of mine. We met him, and next thing you know, we were distributing his film. So it is so important to connect with people as much as you can. But I think for those people who are shy out there, I always encourage, get to your nearest closest film festival. It doesn't matter if it's a tiny one or a big one. Support the business, support what people are doing locally, and there's going to be people there to talk to about the business. There always are, as you know.
No, yeah, of course. I can introduce you people in LA. I know a lot of people, producer, director. If you need help, please let me know. That's what I do. I don't know.
Yeah, you're the connector. I love it.
Well, yeah, actually, you are representing a lot of films that for our friends. Actually, you have The Passenger. That's friends of mine. Yeah, the craziest.
Raul and Fernando.
Y Cerezo, yeah, Raul, yeah, y Fernando, yeah.
So and we also have The Elderly coming up. So Viejos, we picked that one up as well.
I'm trying to. I think I want them to send it to the festival so we can show the Viejos. Yes, if you are planning on doing some marketing campaign or where with the film, let me know. I can help you with that. I'm good at that. So and they are friends, and I know they do. Oh, by the way, how's the movie of Maxi? How's that's did it go do well the film?
Yeah, so that's been a release that it really has exceeded expectations, in terms of what we expected. I think we all saw it as a really cool film that has limitations. There from it being there are always, when you get to the business side of it, there are lots of things that you have to consider. For instance, the level of violence, right? I mean, it's not Terrifier 2. But there is some high level violence within the film. Of course, it's in Spanish, which again is like I know it's horror fans that are working with subtitles, but it does obviously create some limitations in the market when you want to go mainstream. But we were very pleasantly surprised with just everyone embracing the film, getting it right away, understanding what we're trying to tell there. This isn't some film that's a grand allegory for world peace. It's a fun film that people like to watch, and it's gone really well. We had a unfortunately, we released at a time where theaters weren't really an option. It was mostly virtual cinemas because we were in the middle of COVID, and most of our country was shut down. But I think that also opened up a lot of doors for people to check out different things. It went really well for the last matinee. So we had a successful VOD release. We released a DVD, a super special edition Blu-ray, and even a VHS on it. So that was really fun. Then we partnered up with Shudder for our SVOD. We love Shudder. Support the business. They are really wonderful partners. And we even lined up a deal with Showtime for broadcast here. So so we had this great mixture, and that just tells you enough right there, right? Shudder for the genre audience, Showtime for the mainstream, and both, everyone embraced it on that side, on all sides, really. And we're super happy. So actually, we want to keep working with Maxi as much as possible. We have been discussing a sequel,
Really?
and yeah, and
Oh,
yeah, I have the treatment, and Maxi's working on an
oh.
English translation of the script for me. Unfortunately, my Spanish isn't, I can't read Spanish as well as I once could, in college. But
Pero hablas
yeah,
español.
un poquito.
O sea, puedes entender si hablo.
Yeah.
More or less. No, I speak
Yeah.
English. Don't worry.
English is better.
No, I thought that because you were in LA, because a lot of producers there they speak Spanish because
No, no, no. I had to take it in college, just so it's like this is 20 years ago.
oh, okay. No, because I thought no, because I think in high school I thought that you have like a second language Spanish, man.
Yeah, a little bit, but I mean, it's unfortunately, as Americans, it's never really taken that seriously.
Oh,
We force English on everyone. It's, I really wish my children will speak Spanish fluently.
oh,
But not, unfortunately, I only have so many hours in the day to actually
yeah.
revisit it. So
It's funny you say because I know UPenn. I have a good friend of mine that studied there. It's a very important university there. But you change the career. You start. You know who else start as a lawyer, and then he changed. Director Alex Cox. He's living there in the States.
oh,
He was a good friend of mine. He's always asked me to send him alfajores. He's one of the most generous guys. You should talk to him. He's a wonderful person.
hmm.
But and Tom, something I want to know is you distribute these films in the United States market, right? No, or
In Canada.
and Canada, but not
Mhm.
abroad, like not
Um,
Asian.
so so we do the answer is not quite internationally at this point. The company started, focused on North American distribution, and by North American, I just generalized Canada and the US into that. We don't even really cover Central America, even though that's kind of part of North America, but really US and Canada to start. And what's happened is because all of the in particular the digital platforms that we work with, they go into all of these territories and we have deals with them.
Mm.
We have started to kind of help our filmmakers out internationally, so it hasn't really been a full part of the business. It's more been like a value add to our producers when they say, hey, Mike, we haven't been able to secure distribution in the United Kingdom, can you help us? And the answer is yes. I mean, if I already have the rights, and the film available, in America, say iTunes, it's no added cost for us to activate iTunes in the UK. So we can offer that kind of value add to our producers. Now, going forward, what we're looking at doing is developing more business internationally. I think that would start with going into the English speaking territories, just because the localization of content is easier when it's already in a native language or we have English subtitles on something. So that's probably where we would start, and then we would develop kind of more from there.
Mm.
And then we have a couple things where we're trying to get more into. We've been in the finished film business primarily, but now we're looking at getting involved earlier in films. We actually came on board for a Bigfoot movie that just debuted at the Miami Film Festival. As at Script Stage, and we're I'm an executive producer on that film, and Dark Star was the distributor from Script, and we actually do control the world on that project. So we're selling it internationally, to other distributors overseas, but we are the worldwide rights holder. That one's called Summoning the Spirit, which is a fun Bigfoot slash cult movie,
Oh,
and
send me
yeah,
the link when you have
yeah,
it.
yeah, I'll send it to you. That's it's a fun one. It's a filmmaker that we've worked with previous. We don't only do genre pictures, I should say, but we primarily do. And a filmmaker that we worked with on some other projects, and he never made a genre movie, and he said, "Man, I want to make a creature movie." And I said, Well, let's do it. I want to make a creature movie with you. So, so as we get into doing more early stages, we will have to develop, kind of how our business goes to the rest of the world. And that's something that we're actively working on in 2023.
So you are acting as a sale company, a distribution company, and a producer company now. The three of them.
In the case of that film, yes. It is, yeah, kind of a catch-all, right? And it all goes back kind of to, why I started Dark Star. I started Dark Star to be a filmmaker-friendly company, with transparency and collaboration with our filmmakers. That's what we wanted. Those are the core principles of the business, right? We want to be transparent and collaborative with people. And if that means going, to be a worldwide sales rep, for territories outside of the US, if that means, coming on board earlier, for films, and it financially makes sense for Dark Star, we want to do that, we want to be able to put filmmakers in a position to be successful. And at the very least, give them the information that they need to be successful on their next project if this one wasn't successful. So, and that's all just about being transparent, and showing filmmakers what's happening, and that's something that we want to do.
Yeah, I did a background check there. Yeah, I know. I asked them, but really, really, I appreciate you are having an honest take on this, because, as you told me in the beginning, yes, there's a lot of bad rep in the distribution sale.
Unfortunately, it doesn't need to be.
And tell me, how did you face that stigma in the beginning?
Yeah, I mean, like, starting, when I was starting Dark Star, I had the benefit of being in the business for, at that point, almost 10 years, right? And had my personal relationships with people who were ready to get behind me, in starting a new business. They knew, and it was mostly on the sales rep side, right? So people representing the producers, talking to me, knew that I was going to do what I was going to say I was going to do. And I was fortunate, because we didn't have an investor. I financed the company completely with my own money and savings. So I didn't have the money to come in and make huge minimum guarantee offers, to be competitive. So what I needed to rely on was my reputation, and what I had built to, in the business to that point personally, as well as, kind of people who, were willing to take a little bit of risk, with somebody who is new. So, I think from the get-go, the point was working with, starting to work with people who I already had a relationship with, and we knew it was going to go, well, to a degree, and they knew what I was trying to do, and believed in it. And I think then it was and from there, it's just been a matter of execution and doing what you say. I think the biggest thing that people, on the distribution side, are worried about is giving people bad news. And the fact of the matter is that there is bad news, and you can't get around it. And the further you put it off, the more you look like a fraud, to your filmmakers. And I think it's important to be transparent, whether it's good or bad. Of course, I like to deliver good news. We've got a great Shutter deal in place. Everyone wants that, but it's equally as important to tell your filmmakers what the reality is on these things, and delivering them the bad news and how you're going to pivot going forward, and that's just realistically what needs to happen more in this business. And I think it just again, it goes back to transparency, showing people what it is, and then we've also always been super collaborative. I mean, every distribution company is going to want to create, well, I won't say everyone, but most of the good ones will create a new poster, a new trailer, and a lot of times they just won't show those to the filmmakers, which to me is just, it just blows my mind. I mean, we always want to have that creative approval, we didn't make the movie most of the time, and we want the filmmakers to say, hey, this is cool. This represents what we want to bring out in the market, but more commercially, because that's what we do, right? We bring the commerce to the creativity. And I think it's kind of understanding what position, a distributor is, and, to a filmmaker, where we can add value, and just really clearly conveying that is what we do and what I think is most important, for any distribution company.
Yeah, right. I've been hearing a lot of complaints in the industry about the new qualities standards, that they are over exaggerated. Uh,
Yeah.
do you agree with that? It's like they are trying to do, when technology start to, evolve, it makes it easier to do a film because
Sure.
now before it was very difficult. You need a lot of money. So these kind of higher standards, unnecessary for many, are seen as like kind of they are trying to to make the activity expensive again on purpose.
Sure.
Do you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think QC standards, we see them change every day. It's something where you're right. It's how there's a business here, right? And people are charging money, be it a lab, be it whoever it is, right? So when you can't make money off of selling, actual film stock, and then processing that film stock, which was a very expensive process, it's how do you find other ways to do it? The first kind of like glaring way was, something called virtual print fees here in America, which was, basically the projector that they put into a movie theater that can show, a digital file as opposed to film. They were charging every film to play in that projector, so you would have to absorb that cost, which is ridiculous. And those are going away now. But now you see with the labs, it is unfortunately, a process where if you don't have someone guiding you through it, you can be really caught up in, QC, quality control issues. These, from subtitles to closed captions, which are necessary, to just, simple, footage and what's meant to be presented there. So again, it's like, from our side, we're always the buffer, right? We take the film from our filmmakers, from the producers or the sales company, whoever's delivering it to us. We take it to our lab, who begins the QC process. This is a third party lab, right? I mean, we don't own the lab, of course, it's a third party. And then we take the quality report back and we go through it first for them to say, okay, because we have so many films flowing through this process, we're very familiar with what can be passed and what is just a flag, that's meant to kind of grab money. So again, if you don't have someone walking you through that process who's familiar with it, you can get, take it to the cleaners, as they say, in terms of your bill being really racked up. And then the platforms themselves keep changing things. I mean,
Why they do that? I
yeah,
mean,
well, it's I always chalk it up to, in the American market that, we become more and more prudish every day. I mean, this is a country that's scared to see someone naked, it's ridiculous. But, and it comes to now, it's like you can't show smoking in a trailer. I'm like,
what?
I mean, my father used to smoke in the car with the windows up when I was a kid. And I turned out fine. It's they just seem to reintroduce all of these standards, because typically what it is people probably complaining. A parent saw, a child saw something on, the Amazon trailer, and then they complain to Amazon, and Amazon takes it out on us. So they set these standards, and they're constantly changing, and we can't do anything about it. So it's frustrating. I mean, it's there a lot of times we don't even have any say in it, as a content partner, let alone the filmmaker, right, have any say. So but again, it goes back to my point of having a good partner who's going to, help guide that process. It's like we know the intricacies of how, what is passable versus what is actually a problem. And we go through that. I can tell you right now, the biggest issue that we have is closed captioning. I mean, it's just such a crazy standard that is set.
Closed capture would be.
Yeah, closed captioning. So it is we don't need to do it on foreign films, but on English language films, it's for the hard of hearing. So it's not only the dialogue, but if you close a door, it says door slam, things like that. It's descriptive,
Oh,
of what's going on. It's federally mandated, to have here, and actually most countries are putting a federal mandate in for closed captions for digital platforms. And then it's required by most of the platforms that we work with, right? So because of the federal government coming in and saying, hey, you have to have this, which we agree with having it. The problem is that the quality standard that they're asking for sometimes is very difficult to get at an affordable rate. Sometimes we end up spending thousands of dollars on a closed caption file, which just seems superfluous.
Actually, I have the experience of a friend here in Argentina. They are amazing directors. Okay, if you want, I can send you some films. They have already been released a long time ago.
Always send me films.
I will send you the most. Nocturna, the Night of the Great.
Oh yeah, of course. My friends at Breaking Glass released this film.
Yes, I know. Well, for me, it's one of the best horror dramas of 2021. And there also is a movie called Lenny and Pussycake. I don't know if it's on Screenbox. Pussycake from Robert.
Pussycake.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Okay.
And I dare you to watch the film and try to calculate the budget of that film. Pussycake and Lenny. It looks like $1 million, but it's not. It's 34, something like that. And
wow.
Lenny, it's on Amazon in the US. Watch Lenny. Lenny by Federico Gianotti. It's a friend of mine. They filmed it in 10 days with $10,000. And you couldn't believe it. Well, that's the thing here. They can do amazing things. That's the difference between American filmmakers and in Latin America. Here, low budget is the rule. They're literally, they have no budget at all. So you have to find creative ways of doing things. But the problem was,
that's great.
Yeah, can I send you the film so you can watch it? Because
absolutely.
These directors, they can do amazing things. Like Maxi. They did it in 20 days. But the problem, it's an advantage if you can do an amazing film for 10,000. It's a deal. But then you have the quality controls that screw that everything.
Absolutely. That's why you need someone who can get you through it. The fact of the matter, like take a documentary, for instance. Documentaries are a nightmare because they have archival footage that's from VHS tapes that are, like looking like the whole screen is in an earthquake, and there's nothing you could do because that's the only footage that exists. But there are ways to push that in, right? It's like, you just need somebody to help you control the process, and the costs, because, it's just like anything else, when you have support, and the right support in place, you can overcome. And, we're all about trying to find the coolest, craziest film. Doesn't matter how much it costs. I think there's something to be said about filmmakers who are making movies for $10,000. That's the kind of grit that that you want. That's the kind of that there's a lot of heart in that, and there's a lot of passion on the screen. And it just reminds me a lot of starting a business. It's like, hey, we started with a couple nickels and a pack of cigarettes, kind of, and figured out how to go from there. And that's I love that scrappiness. It's also a Philadelphia mentality, by the way.
No, I know.
Very blue collar.
I know the Philadelphia culture, subculture. I'll send you some of these films because they are amazing. Actually, I have a friend of mine, Fabian Forti. He finished a film called Lesions. About. I don't know if you heard about it.
It sounds familiar, but I'm not ringing a bell in terms of watching it.
No. Well, I'm helping him because he have made like 8 films that are. Most of them are really amazing, and he has started to publish it, on YouTube, just to people know him, because for him it's better to use that material as a presentation, right? That's what we're doing, and that's what I was going to ask you. What kind of a strategy you have for marketing based on a personal brand of the filmmakers to promote the films? Do you have a strategy or?
Yeah, well, we think every every film that we release is a little bit different in terms of, how it's going to get out there. We are not a sausage factory. We don't just put, okay, the film is going through the process and it does the same thing every time. Everything that we do really does depend on, what the film is, where the audience is, and then kind of like what the micro audiences are within that audience, like a slasher horror, what else can we get to? You take a film like The Last Matinee, Maxi's film, and we say, okay, it's obviously a no-brainer for the genre audience, but where are the other audiences? Okay, we can get the Latino community. We can push this into a female audience because we have the strong female characters and they might be able to relate to this. What can we do, to kind of put that film out there? But when it comes to the directorial aspect, I mean, that's kind of the most important. No matter what the campaign is, from the content that we do, it is most important that we have, a spotlight on a director, because we don't have big casts in our movies typically. We don't have, these we don't have $1 million marketing budgets. We have to rely on the content and what the content is speaking to, and what better way to put that out there than to talk to the creator of this content. So, we are always trying to get our filmmakers as engaged as humanly possible, in doing all of the press that we can wrap around them. And generally we will sit down, usually via Zoom like this, or on a phone call, because our directors are from all around the world. And, and we'll talk about, with our publicist on, and what's the strategy going to be here. We target, specific outlets for each director. Here's the goal, and then here's all of the, the buckets we want to fall into in terms of outlets, and then we aggressively go after them, to talk to our filmmakers. Generally speaking, we of course want to cover the core audiences that we're going to touch on, whether that's the genre audience or the indie film crowd and things along that side. But a lot of times we can cross over into other areas, in other, that aren't film related even, just talking about, something that's within the film that can be, relatable. For us, again, it's the most important thing is spotlighting a director. So it all depends on the film, right, and where we're going with it. If you take, for instance, on the Bigfoot movie that we were, that we produced, so John Garcia, the filmmaker, he's Portland based, from Texas, first generation Latino, first generation Mexican American, and who also has worked in the LGBTQ world, although this film has nothing to do with it. He's made a Bigfoot movie that also has, a cult, kind of like tied into it. So with John, we have local Portland press, we have Texas press that we want to get to, where he has followings. We have the LGBTQ plus community. Even though this is not a queer film, they support filmmakers and that have been a part of the community and are a part of the community. John is that. Then we have the genre audience, and we have, of course, Bigfoot aficionados, conspiracy theorists, people who want to, there's so many podcasts that are interested in, Bigfoot mythology and finding Bigfoot or just talking about Bigfoot. And John, being the director that he is, fully entrenched himself in this community. He was doing like Bigfoot search parties and stuff, while he was doing research, and so we want to have him talk to all those communities. So when we actually initiate our press campaign, we're going to push out on all those different levels to wrap around John, who will in turn connect it to the project.
Excellent. And do you know Screambox? I have talked with those guys. No,
with Brandon? With Brandon, I'm assuming.
No. With Alex, he's a social. And also with Be Disgusting.
Oh yeah, Bloody Disgusting.
Yeah. I'm trying, because as a fan, I'm a fan, but at the same time I work a lot as an analyst. So I always like to talk to people to have this, because it's useful to everyone. The economic podcast. It's a lot of, I have interviewed a lot of CEOs of company when I was young. Now I'm not young anymore, but
we all get older. It only goes one way, my friend.
Yeah, no, but I really enjoy the process to know the story, how someone decide to leave their job and start their own company like you did with the starting. And I wanted to know, are you thinking on producing because you have a good experience doing so? In the future, there is a possibility of starting a production company, because I always said my first view on the sector, because I say, okay, you have a distribution company, sell company, a production company. The mistake of the filmmakers is to start a production company. No, you have to start with a distribution company, and then when you have all the clients, you start producing. So that's Netflix, and that's your case now. So
I think
yeah.
the thing is that for us, it's harder and harder and more competitive because of the streamers to acquire finished content the way that we used to. We go to South by Southwest, Cannes, Fantastic Fest, and 75-80% of the films were available for distribution, and we're all competing for them. Now we go to these festivals, half of them already have distribution, if not more. And then the ones that they are showcasing aren't really for us, right? So we have such a limited amount of films that we can acquire in the traditional sense. So how do you solve that problem? Well, it's getting involved earlier in projects. So for me personally, and the business and the Dark Star business by proxy, I have I have a background in, like I said, I went to the Wharton School undergrad, right? So I understand economics, I understand, finance, and looking at, just how production is handled, it's very risky. So, how do you mitigate that risk? Well, you do it by working with people who can deliver on time, who can deliver a piece of content that that will make money, that will be valuable in the marketplace, or that will have some kind of distinctive voice that is going to be valuable in the long run, right? So, what we needed to do is build that model first, the distribution model, work with, a collection of filmmakers, so that we know who we can go to, and say, hey, we want to make this movie. Or they can say, hey, Mike, we've got this script. We think it will be great. Here's what we can deliver. And we have that trust now that we can, because we've worked together on a finished film, and we have that trust that, from them to trust us to get it out there, and us to trust them to deliver us something that will work, where we don't have to see it finished. Because the business has had to be risk adverse to start. That's why we had to look at finished films. Looking at a script is a lot different than what you look at on the screen most of the time. So and plus the return on investment, the ROI is long. So we needed to cash the cycle quicker. Now, as we've been around for long enough, and build up our revenue streams, we can be more comfortable getting involved early. So I think the natural progression to that is producing films. Now, we're still going to be risk adverse. We're still going to look at things, that's just my business mind. But for sure, we are 1000% looking at more production, getting things going that way. And then also just kind of building out that worldwide presence, that sales business. Because I just on the world side for a second, I think that the future is more about controlling it from one entity as opposed to selling it to multiple entities. And that's kind of why I spoke about, diversifying our business into those English-speaking territories to start. And the way I see it is Dark Star expanding into those territories as opposed to selling individually into those territories, which is the historical model. I think as digital, becomes much more of a presence, you can represent your own digital in these markets, and then you only partner with someone who can do the theatrical locally, because obviously it's harder to do a local theatrical in Argentina for me.
For you, but I know the guy who does it, so
exactly. So that's what we say. It's more. It becomes more of a partnership, whereas historically you would sell the rights outright for that territory. And I think this does a lot of different things. For your brand. For me, for my brand, and for just obviously expanding revenue streams. But from a filmmaker's perspective, it's better if the finances are all controlled through, funneling through one bucket and back to you, as opposed to having to collect from 35 different sources. It's just centralizing things.
Actually, one of the things that used to happen that I really complain a lot, because for say company, it was best to sell to a lot of people, to a lot of distribution company that didn't show the movie, because I know a distribution company is in Slovakia, so they get some money, then they rip off the producers, and they don't show the film. So
Right.
and it ended up, well, Alex Cox used to say that the best way for a filmmaker to be known is to pirate their own films. Because, yeah, I mean, it's true, because I mean, this Fabian Forte, the director of Legion, he made a sci-fi Black Mirror-esque film, very, very low budget, but amazing, called The Corporation. I'll send it to you, and you will see, wow, this is amazing. 2012, I was able to find it, and it was like, the production company there, they are from Argentina, they're assholes. Most of big production companies here are assholes. I'm guessing in the States also.
Most places.
But they kept the film like locked, so nobody could see it. So finally, the director said, "Okay, let's put it on the internet, because it's from 2012." And no, I mean, a few people have seen. I'll send it to you. It's with English subtitle. So say, wow, this is a very good film, very low budget, sci-fi Black Mirror-esque, as I told you. If you like those kind of films, you will enjoy it. And again, as I say, and also I can because I talk with young filmmakers around the world. So I found this kind of talent. The guy from Lenny, Pablo. Google Pablo Paredes. He's called the filming machine. He's the guy who made Zombie Plague. This.
Okay. Oh yeah.
No. He's the guy who can do with a lot of bullshit, a lot of low bullshit, a lot of things. Well, Pussycat. Come on. The thing is, he works in a very particular way. He always works with the same team. He has been working like that for 30 years, doing like 15 low budget films. But they are really amazing. Watch Pussycat, so we'll see.
I'll check out Pussycat.
Yeah.
It's also a very memorable title.
No. Yes, I know. No. I really enjoy it. And I remember talking with a friend that has a podcast in the state, Nick Taylor, and he said, it's a film. It's difficult to find a film nowadays that you really enjoy watching on the cinema, because people start screaming like every time someone gets blown away, or there's a lot of gore. So people start like, it was like being in a football stadium. Oh, well.
Yeah.
And it's difficult to find that kind of films because, well, Pablo is a genius. But again, nobody knows him. Only in the niche. But these kind of guys, it's what, if you want, I can send you short films, future films. I can tell, hey, look, this guy. Young people.
Yeah, no, I love that. I'd love to, any kind of, dots that you can connect on that side. I'm very open. We're like, like I said, we're really trying to find new voices. Really, a big part of what I was always trying to do was, find interesting voices, that have not been, showcased yet. Right. That's a thing, it's like part of it is, a first-time filmmaker, needs a lot of help, which is what we want to provide. But it's also like, it's exciting to work with a first-time filmmaker because everything is new. Everything is, just different for them. Right. And they're much more excited about everything and engaged. So, it's that's something that I think, I'm always, very passionate about helping. But, in general, it's like, I'm trying to find cool voices from overseas. That we can.
I'll send you some very cool voice. Well, watch Lenny, Pussycat, and see. Tell me what you think, and then I tell you how they. I can't believe they did in that amount of time. And Pablo did everything. Did the post production. No, he's really Google it. You will see who he is in the. The problem is he only works in. It's like he cannot work at the industry level. He couldn't do a big budget film. It's like, give me the budget, I'll do the film. I will do I will respect the deadline, but I have to do it my way. So that's how he works. And well, he has done 15 films until this day, and they're all. No, no, really, really watch it. And also
Oh.
consider some short film made by young directors. I get angry with these directors because they sometimes sabotage themselves. They say, no, no, I don't want to do this. I don't want to release it. I mean, they have low self-esteem. So I'm trying to cheer them up because they know this is good. Well, Nocturna, have you watched Nocturna?
Yeah, I only watched A though, side A. I didn't see side B.
What do you think about the film?
It's interesting. I mean, it's to me, it's very unique in how it approaches, kind of the topic of, it just, family relations in general, right? I mean, I think it's an interesting take. I was expecting it to be a bit more pronounced in its genre. It's much more about pacing, sound design. To me, the sound design was probably the most, the best part of the film, personally. And it's visually very pleasing, but for me, it shows you that you don't need huge jump scares and over the top, horror, tropes, to deliver something that is ultimately very scary, and I'm always impressed by things like that, because I think the distributor's trailer was cut to be a little bit more genre leaning, which I understand, of course. But ultimately, it is more of a drama. It's more of a psychological drama.
You know what film I really relate to? It's Jacob's Ladder.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
it's kind of that kind of, and I love that film. It's a masterpiece for me. I love that film, and again, because horror drama has also a very how you say an audience. And I remember the last time I helped the director to when they was released here, the cinema was full and people end up crying, hugging the director. And the funny thing about the director is that he has made another horror films called Resurrection and Luciferina. They are amazing. They are more horror.
Oh, I know Luciferina.
Yeah, you know him. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, technically, well, he's a genius. I mean, he has a way of filming. Well, he thinks the movies are okay. Nocturna is okay for him. He told me I found new mistakes the last time I saw the film.
Well, so, the pacing of the film is really smart. I think it's really well done. And it just builds tension, and that's so much harder to do than have a creature go which I love that.
Yes.
But it's much harder to deliver something terrifying in a slow paced horror drama. Like that's difficult.
A lot of people, they really say my deepest fear is to lose my mind. So it's like, I know, a Ari Aster, Midsummer. There are not jump scares. It's about disturb the audience. And in a way, this movie, because they were saying it's a fantasy drama, no, but also the element of fear is presence. I mean, do you know the actor Pepe Soriano? Is one of the best actors in Argentina. He's 93, by the way.
Right.
So he's
really?
Yeah.
He looks good for 93.
Yeah. And for me, it's one of the best performance in his career. We're talking about a 70 years career. I mean, like, and I told him that no. But again, and that's the thing. In every genre, there is a gem to be found. And well, I'll send if I find any gems.
We had a cool one that was in that realm that was from Argentina as well. Rock, paper, and scissors.
Oh yes, that's amazing. Yeah, I know the director. Yes, a friend of mine. Yes, that's amazing.
That was it's not a traditional horror movie, right?
No.
But it's
fucked
up. Excuse me.
Really fucked up. Another film that is amazing is on Shudder, I think. History of the Occult. It's amazing. Well, Christian is a genius. Christian is a director from La Plata. It's another city. No, he's going to be in our festival. But he has been working because he's very well. He's very good at writing. He knows the pacing in the paper because he had a program, a radio horror show when they tell stories, and you could notice back then that he has this skill. It's masterpiece. I mean, we're talking about true Lovecraftian, uchronic I don't know how to define that film, and people love it in the US. I heard the critics. It's he was worried because they know they are not going to understand it, blah blah blah. And that the audience there is changing, don't you think?
Definitely. And we're getting more embracing of the genre films in general. I mean, you look at films like Skinamarink and
Yeah.
Terrifier 2 doing their thing at the box office, you know. Even the, you know, kind of like more on the more like schlock horror, you know, basis of Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
it's a, you know, it is what it is. You know what you're going to get delivered.
No, I
Those
love
films
that.
have existed forever, you know, and now they're getting their time in the sun, and that's great. It's good for all of us, you know. And you know, it's like, hey, you know, everyone likes something a little bit different, you know. I mean, like, I love the films of Kurosawa just as much as
Yeah.
I love Roger Corman, you
Yeah.
know. And that's, you know, and they're very different, you know, and the
Yes.
critics look at them very differently, you
No, of
know. So,
course. But
you
you know
know,
what they have in common? They are true voices. Roger Corman, Brian Schusna. I love Brian Schusna because he does it with love. What I hate is this commercial Netflix formula. I hate that. I really hate that. And actually, I hate Disney. And I hope next year the Mickey Mouse rights are going to
oh, the Steamboat Willie rights are up. I know.
Yes, so
It's coming. It's coming, is what I can tell you. It's not coming to me, but I know it's coming. There are a few interesting things coming. You know,
Yes, yes, no,
we
no.
have we
I
have a couple of things in the hopper that are fun. I won't speak about them publicly right now, but
no,
I'll
no.
send you.
Wait. You can do it right now.